A struggling student left her child at the CEO's door and discovered an incredible life-changing. Mia stood at her door, heart pounding like a drum. Outside, the air was crisp and still as night cloaked her small suburban community, the kind where white picket fences lined the streets and neighbors whispered sweet nothings over cups of coffee. But Mia felt far from that cozy dream. At 28, she was a tapestry of exhaustion, stitched together with the threads of late-night study sessions, the scent of her minimum-wage job clinging to her clothes, and the laughter of her curious toddler, Noah, echoing in her heart. With tear-streaked cheeks, a decision loomed heavy like a storm over the horizon, one she never thought she'd consider. Noah tugged at her sleeve, his big brown eyes glimmering with innocence, unaware of the tempest in his mother's mind. To love him was immeasurable, but to provide for him? That weighed on her constantly. Memories of her mother working 2 jobs to keep their family afloat surged forward, reminding her of the sacrifices made by a single parent. Mia could almost hear her mother's voice saying, "Never give up." But what if giving up was the only option left? Tears threatened to spill again as she thought of Richard, the wealthy CEO. Ever since he moved to town, Mia had watched him from a distance, his shiny cars and tailored suits a stark reminder of everything she didn't have. She was taught to resent that privilege. But desperation changes everything. After weeks of anxiety and unpayable bills, she cradled a gasp of hope in the shadow of her decision. Mia stepped out into the night, clutching Noah's tiny hand. This was no longer a safe suburban street. It felt like a tightrope stretching over an endless chasm. She knocked on Richard's door, every heartbeat echoing louder than the last. When the door swung open, the warmth from his luxurious home spilled out, a bitter contrast to the chilly air. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Richard's eyes widened in shock as he noticed Noah snuggled in Mia's arms. The confrontation was electric. Mia's shame twisted in her gut, conflicting emotions roiling like a storm inside her chest. "I need help," she managed to choke out, barely above a whisper. "How could you think this would be the answer?" Richard shot back, glaring at her with disbelief. Spilling out the truth came easy, the financial flood swallowing her whole, the late fees piling, the fear of making her son hungry. Her voice trembled, yet she couldn't hide the mounting sorrow in her heart. As they stood surrounded by the shimmering perfection of Richard's life, Mia and Richard faced an intricate dance of societal divide. In that charged moment, beneath layers of resentment and privilege, their worlds collided, a single mother desperately trying to save her son, and a CEO unknowingly placed in the eye of her storm. Mia's heart raced as she realized the deeper question hung in the air. Could she let go of everything she'd ever believed about help and pride? The tension crackled, palpable between them, leaving the door to transformation ajar, but unentered. In that moment of swirling emotions and unresolved tensions, one thing became clear. They were both on the precipice of change. Richard's gaze softened for just a fraction of a second. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, absorbing the weight of Mia's words and the helplessness radiating off her. Here was a woman at the end of her rope, standing at his doorstep with a little boy who could just as easily be his own son. The room filled with unspoken urgency, heavy with the stakes of their lives. "What do you want from me?" His voice cracked, a mix of confusion and sympathy. He didn't want to admit it, but a part of him was stirred by her vulnerability. Mia felt the knot in her throat tighten. I just need a way to make things right. I'm trying so hard to provide for him, and I'm scared, Richard. I'm terrified." The admission came out in a rush, each word infused with a raw honesty that cut through the tension. Richard stepped back, letting them in. The warmth of his home swirled around them, but Mia felt colder inside. Despite the gleaming chandeliers and the soft hum of music, she was acutely aware of how out of place she felt. "Just a moment," he said, disappearing into another room. She could hear him pacing quickly, like a caged animal trying to sort through a whirlwind of thoughts. Noah tugged at Mia's dress, his soft fingers echoing the innocence of childhood. grounding her in a world that threatened to disappear. Richard returned wearing a frown and staring down at a folder in his hand. I don't understand how you got here. To this point he began. Why not ask for help before turning to such drastic measures? There are resources available. Mia's chest tightened. That's the thing, Richard. It's hard to believe in resources when you feel like you're drowning in your own shame. I thought I could manage, thought I could do it all. He watched her, the weight of her despair dancing in the air between them. We all need help. Everyone's human. He ran a hand through his slicked back hair. His frustration evident but laced with budding compassion. Why didn't you reach out? His question haunted her. How could she explain the layers of pride and fear? To request help felt like exposing a wound too tender to touch, like dragging her past failures into the light for judgment. I didn't think you'd understand, she murmured, her eyes downcast. Richard moved closer, leaning against the doorframe. I don't have all the answers. I won't pretend to. But maybe we can find a way forward together? Mia's heart raced, a small spark igniting in the dark uncertainty. Together? Yes. I have connections to programs that assist single parents. You could finish your studies. And I might be able to help with Noah's childcare. The thought dangled in the air between them, hope and dread. It felt hopeful yet frighteningly reliant. Mia's pulse quickened. Why would you do this for me? Richard paused, looking her squarely in the eyes. 'Cause I think you deserve a chance. Just like I did when everything seemed out of reach. Mia craved to believe him, but doubt tugged at her heartstrings. Was it genuine or just a reflex of his privilege to help? As they lingered in the uncertainty, a small hand slipped into her own, grounding her in the moment. Mommy? Noah's soft voice broke the intensity, and she knelt to his level. Yes, baby? Is it okay to ask for help? In that heartbeat, Mia realized this was not just about her. It was about Noah learning the courage to seek support in his own life. Yes, sweetheart. Really is. Richard stood witness, something in his expression softening even further. A realization dawned in that shared moment, a mutual understanding that change didn't come easy. But it was possible as hope flickered cautiously in her heart. Mia couldn't shake the fear of what accepting help might mean. Could she trust this stranger who had opened his world? And might he see her beyond the wreckage of her life? And just as the tension began to transform into something warm and emerging, Richard asked, so what's the first step? Mia's heart skipped. Was this the beginning of a new journey, or just another way to break? As she looked up, ready to speak, a loud chime rang throughout the house, interrupting the moment. What was that? She asked, suddenly on edge once more. Richard's expression shifted, a shadow crossing his face as he glanced toward the door. Unexpected guests, he murmured. We may need to talk this later. The door swung open again, and Mia's heart sank as she recognized the silhouettes framed against the soft light, a group of well-dressed individuals, all eyes on them. Who are they? She breathed, a tight ball of anxiety forming in her stomach. Richard's confidence faltered as he turned to face them, his voice barely a whisper. This could change everything. Her heart raced again, not knowing what the next moment would unravel. Would the world they had just begun to build crumble at the first sign of trouble? Mia held her breath as the guests stepped inside, their polished shoes clattering against the hardwood floor. The group was intimidating, exuding an air of wealth and sophistication. She took a step back, instinctively shielding Noah. He clung to her leg, his wide eyes mirroring her anxiety. Richard stood tall but tense, his jaw set as he faced the newcomers. Allison, what are you doing here? He asked, his voice firm yet laced with an undercurrent of worry. One woman stepped forward, perfectly manicured nails and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Richard, darling. We were in the neighborhood and thought we'd pop by for a little chat. She waved casually, but the forced cheeriness behind her lips made Mia uneasy. Now it's not really a good time, he replied, the words coming out more clipped than he intended. Oh, but it is, another guest chimed in. A tall man with slicked back hair and designer glasses adjusted his sleeves, surveying Mia and Noah with an unsettling glint in his eyes. You see, we're here to discuss your upcoming fundraiser. We all know how important it is. Mia blinked, trying to process what this meant. Fundraiser? Did Richard have money to spare? Right, Richard said, his voice strained. But I'm not in a position to. Can we speak privately? Allison interrupted. her tone shifting from light-hearted to somewhat commanding. With reluctant nods, Richard led them to a side room, murmuring, "Wait here." He cast a glance back at Mia, a flicker of concern in his eyes before disappearing behind the closed door. And that unnerving quiet, Mia found herself alone with Noah, their breaths mingling in the still air. She crouched down, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just be still." But Noah wasn't calm. He squirmed and murmured, "Mommy, I don't like them." "I know." Her voice cracked with the weight of her fears. She shared his uncertainty, the way those strangers had looked at them, as if they were mere pawns in a game she didn't understand. Minutes ticked by unbearably, thick with unspoken tension. The voices on the other side grew heated, punctuated by the sharp edge of Richard's tone. "What do they want from him?" she whispered urgently, knowing all too well this wasn't about her. Noah nestled closer, a small hand reaching for hers as if seeking comfort from the approaching storm. "Can I sit with you?" "Of course, baby." She pulled him into her lap, feeling the warmth of his small body grounding her thoughts. Just then Richard stormed back in, his expression unraveling her heart. "I'm sorry, Mia. I have to handle this." The look on his face told her it wasn't merely business, it was something more significant. Something that could upset the fragile help he had offered. "Richard, what is happening?" He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if weighing his words. "You need to trust me. I'll be right back." The door swung shut behind him, plunging them back into an uneasy silence. Noah wiggled in her lap, and they both felt the charged energy that lingered in the house, a current of anxiety that ran deeper than any fundraiser could explain. Mia's mind raced. Was this the kind of help Richard had in mind when he offered to guide her? Or would his world swallow hers whole, tossing her back into a place of insecurity she fought to escape? "Mommy," Noah's small voice broke her thoughts. "What is it, honey? What if he doesn't come back?" Each word hung in the air, heavy with possibility. She felt her heart race. What if her leap of faith cracked under pressure? What if her moment of hope was ready to shatter? And just then the sound of raised voices cut through the silence. The door rattled, and she could hear Richard arguing, frustration and disbelief mingling together. The tension between her and the closed door pulsed dangerously. The thought of losing Richard's support made her stomach churn. They hadn't even really begun to build trust, and now it felt as if it were teetering on the edge. "Everything is going to be fine, Noah. Just breathe." But as the voices rose in anger beyond the door, doubt slithered in. Did she truly have a place in Richard's world, or was she just another problem he needed to solve and then discard? Before she could answer her own question, Richard burst back into the room, his face pale, eyes wide as if he had just wrestled with a storm. "We have to go. Now." Mia's heart stopped. "Go? Where?" His jaw clenched. "There's no time to explain, but we need to leave before they realize your presence here." An icy rush gripped her. What had she walked into? Noah tugged at her, fear etched across his small features. She felt trapped in a situation spiraling out of control. "Richard, I don't understand." "Trust me," he urged, a crack of urgency slicing through his voice. Mia swallowed hard, lost within a whirlwind of emotion. Could she trust him now? Just how far would she have to go to protect her son, and the small glimmer of hope she held on to? The question echoed as they prepared to step into the unknown, each heartbeat heavy with uncertainty. Mia's mind raced, heart drumming in her chest as Richard grabbed her arm gently, coaxing her towards the door. In that moment every instinct screamed at her to resist. Leaving now felt like unraveling what little security she had managed to stitch together. "Noah, we have to move fast, okay?" she said, trying to sound reassuring as she ushered him to stand. He nodded, eyes wide and damp, watching her like a fragile bird ready to fly. They stepped into the hallway, shadows from the ornate lighting casting eerie shapes against the walls. Richard glanced around, his posture taut, every muscle in his body alert. "Stay close to me," he murmured, his tone urgent as they made their way down the corridor. Mia's heart sank deeper. She thought of the conversations happening behind closed doors. The world Richard was entangled in, one that was disinterested in the fragility of her life as a single mother. Her voice trembled. "What if they see us?" "They won't," he replied, though the tension in his tone belied his confidence. But Mia felt exposed, her back prickling, aware of every eye that might be lurking behind jeweled glasses and polished facades. The guests' laughter wafted through the air, mingling with the words they had spoken. Fundraiser, business, threats. Each floated back to her, heavy with meaning she didn't fully grasp. Richard paused at the top of the staircase. We need to go down. Fast. Mia could feel Noah's grip tightening on her hand. He was just a little boy, caught in a tempest of adult chaos. Mommy, I'm scared, he whispered, his voice trembling. Me too, baby, she admitted, kneeling down so they were eye to eye. But I need you to be brave for a moment. Can you do that? He nodded, but his little face betrayed his worry. Taking a deep breath, Mia pressed on. She took Noah's other hand, anchoring him as they descended the steps. The air felt thick like syrup, and every sound seemed to echo louder than it should. Mia caught sight of Richard's clenched jaw as he surveyed the room below. The flickering chandelier lights revealed the guests mingling, glasses clinking, laughter spilling over. It was a stark contrast to the whirlwind brewing within her. And then a voice pierced the cheerful chaos, clear and sharp. Where is Richard? We need to talk about this. It was Allison, striding through the crowd, her eyes darting as she searched for him. Panic surged through Mia. What do we do? Follow me, Richard barked, urgency slicing through the air. He turned sharply and slipped through a hidden door near the staircase, nudging it open with barely a crack. It led to a narrow passage that would lead them away from prying eyes. Mia hesitated for only a moment before she squeezed Noah's hand, and they slipped inside. It was dark, the only sounds their hushed breaths as the door closed behind them. This way, Richard urged, lighting a path with his phone's glow. They hurried down the hallway, the weight of uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. What's really going on? Mia couldn't contain her fear any longer. What did they want? Why does it feel like we're running for our lives? Richard's expression shifted, a mix of determination and deep concern. They want something from me, Mia. Something I can't let them have. Her heart raced. What could be so important? But Richard cut her off. We can't talk now. I promise I'll explain everything soon. Mia could only nod, torn between trust and instinctive mistrust. How long could she afford to believe in his assurances? As they turned a corner, another voice threatened from the distance. Where did he go? He can't just leave. Richard's eyes widened. Fear lit them for just a moment before resolve replaced it. They raced down the passage until they reached a large, imposing door. Richard shot a glance back, dread written across his face. There's no going back now. He pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit alleyway that led to the street outside. Mia squinted against the harsh transition from indoor warmth to the cool evening air. Before them lay an escape, but freedom came with uncertainty, with questions not yet answered. They stood on the precipice, the world beyond the door a swirl of unknowns. Mommy, I don't like this. Noah's small voice broke through her racing thoughts. Turning to face him, she felt the weight of her choices. Neither do I, sweetheart. But we're going to be okay. Promise. Yet, as she looked back to Richard, she wondered if she was just repeating the same empty promises she had clung to before. Trust hung between them like a thin thread, fraying with each uncertain moment. Just as fear began to consume her, a scream cut through the night, sent chills racing down her spine. Get back here. The door behind them slammed open and Mia's heart dropped. Run, Richard urged, grabbing her arm as they dashed into the alleyway, adrenaline fueling their steps. What had she stepped into? And how would they escape the whirlwind of trouble that now seemed to chase them down? Mia felt the air thicken around them, uncertainty pounding in her chest, as they raced into the night. Would they outrun their pasts? Or were they just diving deeper into the chaos? Mia's feet pounded against the uneven pavement, the darkness swallowing them whole as they dashed into the night. She could barely keep up, still gripping Noah's hand tightly, desperate to shield him from whatever storm they were facing. Richard led the way, his footsteps swift and purposeful, cutting through the air like a strike of lightning. What is happening? Noah whimpered, glancing back at the door they had fled. She could see in his big, innocent eyes that he was too young to grasp the gravity of their situation. The worry etched on his small face twisted something in Mia's heart. Just stay with us, Noah, she breathed, her voice coming out steadier than she felt. We'll figure it out. Richard didn't stop to look back, pushing onward into the thickening shadows. Mia's heart raced with fear and guilt, the urge to protect her son clashing with the gnawing doubt about Richard's intentions. She didn't know this world didn't understand the risks they were running. As they turned a corner, Richard ducked into a narrow alleyway. It was lit only by the flicker of a distant street light. "This way," he whispered urgently. The alley smelled of damp concrete and something else, something sharp. Once deeper inside, Richard turned to face them, his gaze intense. "We need to find somewhere safe to catch our breath." Mia looked around, and despite the fear pinning her stomach in knots, a flicker of determination sparked within her. "What did they want from you?" Richard's eyes softened for just a moment, revealing the man underneath the armor he wore. "It's complicated," Mia, his voice faltered as he struggled to find the right words. "But they think I have something that could ruin lives, or why should I trust you?" She cut him off, her emotions bubbling over. Trust was a currency she couldn't afford right now, especially when it came to this man who had pulled her into a whirlwind without explanation. "Noah." Richard's voice was sharp, breaking through her anger. "You need to listen. This isn't just about me anymore. They could hurt you too." Mia's breath caught in her throat. She turned to her son, whose face was now twisted with confusion and fear. "Noah, sweetie, I need you to be really quiet. Can you do that?" He nodded, his small body trembling slightly. Okay. She forced herself to breathe, trying to bring clarity. "So what's the plan?" Richard cast a quick glance around. "We get out of this area. I know a place where we can hide until things cool off." "Hide? From who?" Mia flicked her eyes towards the alley's entrance, the darkness behind them pulling at her. Anxiety bore down on her, thick as fog. Richard took a deep breath, grounding himself. "From Allison and the others. This isn't just a social mix-up. There are powerful people involved, and they don't take kindly to being crossed." Mia felt a shiver run down her spine. Everything was happening too fast. She wished for clarity, for the chaos to settle, but that didn't seem possible. "Noah," she whispered, kneeling down so they were at eye level. "We just need to keep moving for a little while, okay? I promise we'll be safe." "Okay, Mommy." His voice was small, but he leaned into her, finding comfort in their connection. Richard stirred, urgency in his stance. "Let us go before they catch up." They pressed forward, slipping through the shadows as they made their way down the narrow alley. Mia's heart thudded in her chest, each step making her more aware of the heaviness surrounding them. Suddenly the air shifted, a chill brushing against her neck. A sound echoed out of the darkness, a distant voice calling, growing louder. "They went this way. Find them." Panic surged anew. "We need to hurry." "Just a bit further," Richard assured them, but Mia could see the weariness in his eyes, a man burdened with secrets too heavy to carry alone. Then just as they approached another corner, a figure emerged from the shadows, blocking their way, a man with a hardened expression and eyes that glimmered unervingly in the low light. "Going somewhere?" he sneered, stepping forward, and Mia felt the warmth drain from her body. In that moment, despair washed over her. They were running, but now it felt like the walls were closing in again. No escape. What would happen next? Would they find safety? Or were they simply walking into a trap from which they couldn't escape? "Richard," she whispered, fear clenching her throat, as the man took another step forward, finality in his eyes. The man stepped closer, his features sharpening in the dim light. Mia instinctively pulled Noah closer, shielding him as best as she could. Her heart raced like a runaway train, each beat screaming that they were in grave danger. "Who are you?" Richard asked, his voice low but steady. "Just someone who knows you've been a little too reckless lately," the stranger replied, a sly smile cutting across his face. His eyes glimmered with a dangerous mischief. "Allison, one tea like this." The name hit Mia like a punch. Allison, someone Richard had mentioned before, but in hushed tones laden with fear. "What do you want from us?" she managed to ask, trying to sound brave but tasting the bitterness of panic on her tongue. The man's smile widened, revealing teeth that looked too sharp, too ready to bite. "Oh, it's not what I want. It's what you're going to have to give." He gestured toward the mouth of the alley, where shadows danced ominously. "You really think you can run from her? You think hiding is going to end this?" "Shut up," Richard barked, stepping forward. The tension crackled, the air thickening with the feeling of dread. "We'll find a way out of this." Mia watched, her mind racing. Every instinct told her to defend Noah at all costs. Yet deep down she felt the weight of Richard's desperation. She needed to make a choice, but what choice could she possibly make in such a dark moment? The man laughed, a short, chilling sound that echoed off the alley walls. You don't really believe that, do you? This isn't just about survival. It's about power. And right now you have none. His words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Mia pressed her back against the cool brick wall, trying to anchor herself in the midst of the storm brewing around them. What do we have to do? She blurted out, steeling herself against the onslaught of her own racing thoughts. The man's smile faltered for a moment, replaced by a calculating glare. You provide a way for Richard to make amends. He has something they want, and if he gives it up, maybe just maybe you'll all walk away from this alive. Is that true, Richard? Mia's voice cracked, a mix of betrayal and fear. What do you have? Richard faltered, his eyes shifting away from hers. It's complicated, Mia. If I tell you they'll then what? She pressed. We're already in too deep. Noah's grip tightened around her waist, his small fingers digging into her for safety. She could feel his heart racing against her side, his innocence a stark reminder of everything that was at stake. The man's eyes darted between them, sensing the growing tension. Time's running out. You have a choice to make. Either risk everything or hand over what he has kept hidden. The clock is ticking. Mia felt the walls of the alley close in, suffocating her any time she considered what lay ahead. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Noah, of forcing him into a world of shadows and corruption. Let us get out of here, Richard urged. But his tone held a note of desperation. It felt hollow, and Mia sensed the growing divide between them. Just then, a sound broke through the stillness, a metallic clang from the far end of the alley, followed by hurried footsteps. Her heart leapt into her throat. They were coming. Now, the man said, his voice dropping dangerously low. What's it going to be? Mia's mind raced, the weight of their future resting heavily on her shoulders. She looked at Noah, time standing still for just a moment. Suddenly, it became clear that their only chance of survival hinged on the choices they made now. Could she trust Richard? Or would she be leading her son to the very edge of a cliff? Go! She shouted, pushing Noah ahead into the darkness. Move now! The man lunged in an attempt to grab Richard, but then everything blurred, the alley becoming a chaos of shouts, shadows, and the sound of rushing feet. Mia's heart hammered, torn between panic and something deeper shifting within her. It was time to uncover the truth, to find out who Richard really was, and to face whatever Allison represented. As they sprinted into the unknown, she wondered, were they really running for their lives, or were they hurtling toward an even bigger trap? And what would be revealed in the light? Mia pushed through the darkness, her pulse pounding in her ears like a war drum. The alley twisted before them, shadowy corners beckoning with danger. She couldn't stop to think, couldn't afford to lose a moment. Richard stumbled beside her, glancing back at the figure that loomed over them like a specter. Noah, stay close, she called, feeling the warmth of his small hand as he gripped her tightly. The fear in his eyes echoed her own, making her resolve harden. There was no way she could let anything happen to him. Where do we go? Richard's voice was almost lost in the rush of adrenaline. We can't keep running blindly. Mia forced herself to focus. The streets were alive, distant voices mingling with the pounding of her heart. If only she had some idea of where they were, how to escape this nightmare. We need to find a public place, she decided, glancing at Richard. Somewhere people are. We can lose him there. But where? He pressed, anxiety cracking his voice. Any place with lights, people. She didn't have a plan, but she would figure out something. As they careened out into the street, a wave of noise washed over them, cars rushing by, laughter echoing in the night air. The city felt alive, so full of life, yet they were running for theirs. Mia scanned the horizon and spotted a small diner flickering with neon lights. Hope surged in her chest. There. She pointed, guiding Noah into a brisk run. We can hide in there. They dashed into the diner, the bell above the door jangling in alarm. The bright interior was a stark contrast to the dark alley they had just fled. A few heads turned, but Mia pushed her way in, dragging Noah close. She could feel Richard's presence right behind them, a mix of urgency and tension radiating off him. Mama! Noah whispered, his small voice trembling. Sure, we're safe here, Mia assured him, squatting down to meet his eyes. The warmth of the diner felt like a bomb. Just stay quiet. Richard scanned the room, his shoulders still tense. We can't stay long, he murmured, eyes darting toward the windows. He'll know we came in here. Mia nodded, eyes searching for a place to hide. But the diner was relatively empty. Just a couple of late-night patrons scattered throughout. A waitress approached their table, concern etched on her face. Are you folks okay? She looked at them with a softness that made Mia almost break. You look like you've seen a ghost. We just need a moment, Mia said, forcing a smile to ease the tension. Do you have a back entrance? The waitress raised an eyebrow, assessing them quickly. I can't let you out the back without a good reason. What's going on? Before Mia could respond, a loud bang echoed from the door they had just entered. Everyone turned. Mia's stomach twisted. There he stood, the dark figure from the alley, cutting through the diner atmosphere like a knife. Panic surged through Mia as he scanned the room, his eyes locking onto hers like a predator pinpointing its prey. Richard stood up, trying to shield her and Noah, but Mia could see the danger in his movements. Muffled voices from the back kitchen made Mia's heart race. We have to move now, she hissed to Richard, gripping Noah's hand tighter. We can't let him take us, Richard said. Not again. As the man slowly walked inside, Mia's heart sank. Did he have friends waiting outside? Would they be trapped? I know you're in here, the man called, his voice smooth like ice. You can't hide forever. Mia's thoughts raced. A storm cloud of fear and determination. We need to make a break for it, she whispered urgently to Richard. When I say go, we run for the back. Richard nodded, his jaw clenched, eyes steady on the approaching figure. And then Mia saw it. A door at the back of the diner, slightly ajar, a potential escape route. She took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Noah, sensing the tension, squeezed her hand tighter, his little body vibrating with fear. This was it. It was time to fight for their lives. Now, she shouted, launching herself toward the back door, heart racing as adrenaline coursed through her. Richard was right behind her, but would they make it? And as they bolted forward, the truth they had been running from threatened to catch up with them, and Mia suddenly realized that everything was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The door swung open with a squeak, and Mia burst into the narrow corridor behind the diner. The dim light flickered above them, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Richard followed closely, urging Noah to keep pace. They could hear the murmur of voices in the kitchen, the clatter of pans, but the chaos outside was closing in. Which way? Richard panted, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting the figure to appear at any moment. There's gotta be a way out, Mia replied, her voice barely above a whisper. We just need to find it. Noah squeezed her hand, his little heart beating with hers, echoing the fear they all felt. Suddenly, a door on the left swung open, light spilling into the corridor. An older cook stepped out, wiping his hands on a towel. He froze, eyes widening at the sight of 3 frantic faces. Whoa, you folks all right? He asked, his brow furrowing with concern. Mia was about to pull Noah behind her and push Richard forward when Richard spoke up, desperation lacing his voice. We're being chased. That man, get in here. The cook glanced back, his voice lowering to an urgent whisper. Quick, before he sees you. They slipped into the cramped storeroom, where boxes of supplies almost reached the ceiling. The cook closed the door, sealing them in darkness except for the muted light filtering through the cracks. What do we do now? Mia asked, her voice trembling. Just stay quiet. He won't find you if you don't make a sound. The cook peered through a grimy window, which overlooked a dark alley behind the diner. I can hold him off if he shows up, but you need a plan to get out of here. Mia glanced at Richard and then at Noah, who was leaning against her leg, eyes wide with fear. I don't know. Her heart was a chaotic chorus of panic and resolve. She had never felt so trapped. Mama! Noah tugged on her shirt, his small voice cracking. I'm scared. Mia knelt beside him, cupping his face in her hands. We're okay, Noah. We'll get out, I promise. Just stay close to me, all right? The cook nudged the door slightly, peering out once more. If he's out there, we need to wait for a clear chance to run. Time ticked slowly as they held their breath, listening to the muffled voices growing louder. The man they'd escaped from was relentless, and she could feel his presence even here in the small room, breathing down their necks. "Mommy, why are we hiding?" Noah asked, his innocent question cutting through the tension. Mia swallowed hard, searching for words to comfort him. "Sometimes when you're in trouble you have to be brave and patient until it's safe." The irony of her own advice did not escape her. Moments stretched into what felt like eternity. Richard shifted nervously, his pulse racing just as fast as hers. "We can't stay here forever," he whispered, eyeing the window. The cook nodded, his expression serious. "Listen, if you hear him coming, I'll distract him. Just run to the street." Mia's chest tightened. "What about you?" "I'll be fine. Just get out of here." There was a determined look in the cook's eyes that jolted Mia's spirit. The door rattled. They stilled, hearts pounding as they exchanged anxious glances. "Let us go," she urged as adrenaline surged through her. The moment they heard footsteps drawing closer through the diner, she whispered fiercely, "Now." Mia pushed open the door, squinting against the light outside. The cook made his way to the opposite side of the room, ready to stall whoever was coming. Mia and Richard sprinted down the alley, Noah gripping her hand desperately as they darted toward the light at the end of the dark path. Every step ignited her need to protect them both. As they burst into the open street, the night air was a cacophony of sounds: honking cars, laughter from nearby bars, and the distant thumping of music. They had to blend in, to disappear among the crowd. "Stay close," Mia yelled over the noise, scanning the area. Her heart raced not just from fear, but with a renewed sense of urgency. But just when they thought they had escaped, a voice rang out from behind them, urgent, commanding, and far too familiar. "Stop. I know you're in there." Mia's blood ran cold, dread gripping her throat. Would she have to face him again? Or was this only the beginning of this never-ending nightmare? In that moment she realized running could only take them so far. They'd have to stand and fight. What would they do next? The looming decision twisted inside Mia, leaving her heart racing as they ducked into another alley, breathless and at the edge of everything they feared. Mia pushed Richard and Noah deeper into the shadows of the alley. She could still hear that voice ringing in her ears, its menace riding the waves of the bustling street. The adrenaline coursed through her veins as she pressed against the rough brick wall, her breath coming in quick bursts. "Is he coming?" Richard asked, his eyes darting toward the entrance of the alley. "Not yet," Mia whispered, trying to steady her voice. She desperately searched for a way out, a glimmer of hope within the raging storm of fear that threatened to swallow them whole. Noah clutched her hand tighter. "I want to go home, Mommy." Mia's heart ached at his innocent plea. Home had always been a place of safety, warmth, and love. But as she glanced around the dark alley, she felt the suffocating weight of her world pressing down on her. This was not home. This was a nightmare. "I know, baby. We will," she promised without knowing how suddenly. A light flickered at the end of the alley. A figure stepped into view, silhouetted against the vibrant chaos of the street. It was just a man, wearing a leather jacket, but the sense of apprehension overlaid everything. Mia couldn't take any chances. She motioned to Richard to stay still as they ducked further into the darkness. But then the glint of something in the man's hand caught her eye. It was a badge. A police officer. Relief mixed with her anxiety. Maybe he could help. "Stay here," she ordered softly, just loud enough for Richard and Noah to hear. With cautious steps, she edged toward the entrance of the alley, ducking behind a garbage can to get a better look. "Mia," Richard hissed, panic rising in his voice. "Just wait," she whispered back, heart racing as she fought her instinct to flee. As the officer passed by her hiding spot, she took a deep breath, ready to call out. But then she noticed the tense expression on the officer's face. He seemed to be scanning the area purposefully. And just behind him, that figure, a man in the leather jacket, was not far behind. Fear gripped Mia again. "Go," she barked, returning to Richard and Noah. "We need to move." "Where?" Richard asked, fear etched in his features. "Anywhere but here." They were back in motion, slipping further down the alley, hearts pounding as she turned a corner sharply, hoping to find an exit. Mia pushed them onward, adrenaline fueling her with every step. As they moved further from the diner, she thought she saw a glimpse of an escape, a wide street beyond, another alley, bursting with life. The noise was inviting, but how could they ever find sanctuary amid that crowd? With each step, the echo of that commanding voice still rang in her ears. "Stop." It was relentless, a pendulum swinging back and forth. Panic set in again as she imagined him hunting them down, still lurking in the night. As they rounded the corner and reached the end of the alley, Mia glanced over her shoulder just in time to see the officer face off with the leather jacket man. A flash of recognition ignited a flicker of hope. They could make it through if they hurried. Now, she urged, pushing Noah forward and taking Richard's hand. They raced into the crowded street, weaving through the throngs of people, bodies bumping against them, voices muffled by the urgency of their steps. It felt like freedom. Their hopes stretched wide, only to be snagged once more by uncertainty. Mia wanted to believe they were safe, but she couldn't shake the feeling that danger was still close. "Where do we go?" Richard shouted over the commotion, panic lacing his voice. Mia thought quickly, her mind racing through their options. There. She pointed to a nearby coffee shop, its warm lights spilling onto the street. It might be filled with people, a temporary refuge. They pushed through the door, an explosion of warmth greeting them. Mia glanced back, scanning the street for any sign of the pursuers, her heart hammering in her chest. They couldn't afford to be found now, but as they entered, a sharp gasp reached her ears, freezing her in place. A woman, not much older than Mia herself, stared at them from behind the counter, recognition dawning in her eyes. "Mia, is that you?" The weight of the world settled on Mia's shoulders once again. The moment felt like a tightrope walk, unstable and dangerous. How had this woman known her? What was about to unfold? With every heartbeat, the doubt pressed in closer. Would the stranger offer protection, or become another link in the chain that bound them to their fear? Mia swallowed hard, bracing herself for what came next. Could they truly find safety here? Or were they just moving deeper into the shadows? Mia stood frozen, the warmth of the coffee shop colliding with the icy fear still wrapping around her. The unfamiliar face behind the counter was etched with familiarity. Sarah, her old college roommate, had once been the light in Mia's darkest days. And now, in this critical moment, could she be the beacon guiding them back to safety? "Mia, is that really you?" Sarah stepped forward, eyes darting to Noah. "What's going on?" "Sarah, please," Mia urged, rushing each word out as if they were running out of time. "We need your help. We're being chased. There's a guy in a leather jacket after us." And Mia couldn't finish her sentence. The weight of the unresolved chaos nearly toppled her. The surprise in Sarah's eyes morphed into a flicker of concern. "Come in, hurry," she said, beckoning them inside. Mia felt the burdens lift as they were enveloped in the warm atmosphere, if only for a moment. The smell of fresh pastries and brewed coffee wrapped around them like a hug. "Wash your faces, hide." Sarah lowered her voice, casting glances at the door. "You can't stay out in the open." Noah looked up at Mia, his small face radiating uncertainty. "Mommy, I want to go home." The innocence in his words hit her deep. Mia knelt down, brushing her fingers along Noah's cheek. "We will, baby. Just a little longer." Richard's hands clenched into fists by his sides, frustration glimmering in his eyes. "We can't just hide forever. We need a real plan." Mia rose to meet his intensity, feeling the flames of resilience spark in her chest. "And what do you suggest? Run out to face that man again? We need a moment to breathe." "Right," Richard sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't want to end up in his grasp." Hushed voices and footsteps outside cut through the air like a knife, and they all froze, anxiety swirling around them. Sarah grabbed Mia's arm, urgency in her demeanor. "Back here. Let me get you a place." As they moved to the rear of the cafe, they fled to a small room beyond the kitchen, filled with boxes and cleaning supplies. Mia's heart raced, wondering what they had stepped into. Just moments ago, they had been fleeing into the chaos, and now the shadows were again closing in. "Is this safe?" Noah's small voice trembled as he clung to Mia's waist. Mia knelt down, holding him close. "We'll be okay, sweetheart. Promise." She felt Richard's gaze on her, searching for assurance. "Just trust me." Sarah grabbed Mia's shoulder, squeezing it tight. "Stay quiet, okay? I'll go see where that man went." Her determination sent a shiver of strength through the group. Minutes felt like hours as they huddled together, Mia keeping her eyes trained on the door. What were they waiting for? Safety? Answers? Uncertainty danced on the edge of her thoughts, urging her to fight back. Then Sarah burst in, breathless but alive with hope. "The coast is clear. Mia's heart jumped, relief flooding through her as she scooped up Noah, tension unraveling slightly. Now what? Richard asked, brows pulled tight. We have to get you two out of here, Sarah said. My brother works downtown. I can get you to him, a place where no one will think to look. Lead the way, Mia replied, determination fortifying her voice. They slipped back through the cafe, darting toward the front with Sarah guiding them expertly. But just as they reached the exit, a shadow loomed, the unmistakable figure of the man filling the doorway. Mia, he called, voice dripping with malice. You think you can just run away? Time slowed, pulse racing as Richard stepped in front of Mia without thinking, shielding them with his own body. We're not hiding anymore. Let her go. The man shouted, baring his teeth. This is between you and me, Richard. Mia's entire body trembled. No. She tugged at Richard's shirt. You can't. We can't let him have you. With sudden clarity, Richard's eyes ignited with fierce determination. Fight or flight, Mia. We stand together. In that moment, Mia felt a swell of courage surge forward. I won't let you hurt us, she yelled, stepping forward. They had faced too much together to let fear win now. Suddenly the door swung open wider, revealing Sarah's brother, who stepped into the fray, a determined glint in his eye. You want her, you have to come through me first. The man's face contorted with rage, realizing the odds had shifted. In the chaos, Mia felt her heart pounding for one final surge. We're leaving. With Noah tucked safely in her arms, she pushed forward into the flickering lights of the city street, Richard and Sarah South brother close behind. As they raced away, every thud of her heart burned into her mind a simmering truth. They had to reclaim their lives, their safety as they burst into the chaos of downtown. Laughter mingled with the clinking of glasses and the shouts of vendors. They were just another group moving through, yet she sensed this was only the beginning. Bound by resilience, they turned the chaos into their own strength. Keep moving, Richard urged, matched by a newfound resolve. Moments stretched, but Mia felt a steady calm wash over her. For the first time she wasn't just fleeing. They were running towards something more significant. Each other, a new start, a moment of triumph against the storms threatening to engulf them. And as they pressed onward, hand in hand, Mia took a deep breath. They would be all right. They had each other and nothing could tear that apart. Mia smiled at Noah. Ready for adventure, kiddo? He nodded, his eyes brightening, the shadows behind them fading with every step forward into the night. Now was the moment to take back their lives. And together they embraced whatever came next. If you've enjoyed this journey and want more inspiring stories like Mia's, you need to subscribe now to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us spread these tales far and wide. Comment below with your reactions. How did Mia and Richard's story inspire you? And don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformational journey. Your support truly makes a difference.